All right, AOAO, welcome back. Welcome to your Everyday Rich podcast. I'm your host, Jason. My lovely co-host, Jennifer, is not here today. It's going to be another solo episode with yours truly. Your Everyday Rich podcast is really living room conversations for millennials that touch on some important topics in millennial life. So really things that Jen and I would have on our couch in our living room about stuff that I think a lot of millennials ask, like money, uh, investing, family life, just the kind of things that we're all going through, right? Trying to navigate all these like weird things in life and really wrap around all this cultural stuff that we have to try to figure out as well, being Asian millennials. But then, one big conversation we were having is, investing is one thing, but how can you trade, right? There's this big thing about trading. Obviously, since COVID, trading became such a popular thing. And granted that I actually kind of got onto the trading bandwagon a little before that, but really during COVID. So during that time, there's this my guest that I'm very honored to introduce very shortly. He's the one that really actually got me into trading really in much more detail and really kind of go down the rabbit hole of trading in a way where it could be very lucrative, but also learn a skill that you'll never be able to forget. It's an interesting story of how we met, and we'll get into it. But essentially, Eddy Li is the owner of Li Capital Trading, and he runs basically a trading group to help mentor traders, and newbie traders, experienced traders, to really hone in on the skill of trading, because he's been doing it for a long time, and we'll get into like how good he is. But like the whole point of why I've been wanting to interview Eddy was to share his story of how he got into this, and really how people that are interested in the stock market can really leverage a little bit more than just buy and hold, right? This whole thing of investing is one thing, but how do we make more income? And trading is a very good way to do that. So without further ado, I am very honored to introduce Mr. Eddy Li.
Hey, how's it going?
Thanks for coming on and spending some time with me. Uh, so I know I gave a long spiel about how kind of like I've kind of got into some trading in the background, and I wanted to paint a picture for everyone that doesn't know you, right? And here's the funny story: is the way I met you was through a mutual friend of a mutual, I guess, acquaintance of ours when
hmm
I think trading became much popular in COVID, and you were already doing this for a long time, right?
hmm
So, I got into this program, which led me down a rabbit hole of hearing you come on to a similar program. And then I Googled you because I figured out who you were. Like, we found out who your name was, and I Googled you. I don't know what I remember. I Googled like Eddy Trader Canada options. I don't remember what I did, but I Googled something, and then one thing came up. You had some old website, and it was you on that boat. Was it a boat or a yacht or a cat? Some sort of
Yeah, it was
boat,
the
right?
yacht. It was my friend's yacht. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, is this him? Is this guy him? And it turned out to be you. So yeah, like that's the kind of the story of how I met you. Can you tell me a little bit about, like, I guess, your childhood, like what was that like? And yeah, like a little bit about yourself first.
Okay, so I'm from the East Coast. I actually live in a very small town, small city now. They changed it into a city.
Oh, it's a city
So
now?
yeah,
Okay, we
but
won't say
unfortunately,
which
I'm
city,
scared.
but it's the East
Yeah,
Coast. Yeah.
yeah.
East Coast of
So
Canada.
yeah. So my family owns a restaurant over here. I actually grew up in China. I came here when I was 8, right? So my family in China, and like we're in a family of politicians and business people. So like all my uncles, my grandfather, they're all politicians or into business. So we were at the time like we came here in '93. So in China in '93 we had our own businesses. We had like we had a couple houses. So we were well off of kind of more like the upper middle class, whatever. So the time in China was kind of, my parents always working. I'm never there, so I learned how to like pretty well do everything on my own, right? So I spent a lot of time like with my grandparents and my grandfather specifically. He's a very frugal kind of guy. He has a lot of power, but he's very low key. Like you know what I'm
Yeah, yeah.
saying? The type of old school, grandfather type of thing. So he has a big influence on my personality, pretty much. So like I spend a lot of time talking to him, and then and that's in the stuff that he tell me, like things like never forget where you came from and stuff like that, and doesn't don't let other people know, what you can do or what you have and stuff like that. Just keep it low key so nobody will bother you.
That's so true.
Right?
Yeah, like
Right?
my grandparents would always say that too. My parents were just like, "Hey, no, like, keep a low profile. It doesn't matter. Like, you don't tell people what you do, how much you make, and all that stuff." It's like,
Yeah,
yeah,
so
yeah,
I think it's more like a Asian thing that
yeah,
does a lot
yeah,
of that stuff. So anyway, I we came here when I was about 8. Like my dad got approved to come to Canada. Like he was the first of his 5 brothers to show up
yeah. Oh,
to get approved. So he didn't really wanted to leave because we were pretty well off. And he didn't want to go, but because he got approved, he has to come. Like it's more of a like a family face thing, right?
yeah,
If you know what I'm saying,
yeah.
Asians always want face wherever he was the first to get approved, and he just have to do it. So he pretty well like gave up all his stuff. He left, and we took us. We came to Canada. We actually at first arrived in Vancouver, and then spent some time with my family, and then we, we couldn't speak English, so like we didn't know, we read the date on the tickets wrong. We actually had to buy our tickets again.
Nice.
Anyways, by the time we got here on the East Coast, like with the exchange rate, and then at the time, like the plane tickets were pretty expensive. So like by the time we got here, like a lot of our money's been depreciated to like barely anything.
Oh,
So like it was kind of tough growing up because we didn't have that. We went from being very well off, having everything we want, to pretty well having nothing, right? When we came here. So this was in the early '90s. So at the time, like when you have the chance to go somewhere else, that they just kind of do it. They just kind of leave everything and just kind of left and went, right?
yeah.
So yeah, so it like I found it pretty rough growing up here because it's an all white town,
Hmm.
right? We were the only Asians here. Obviously, that's a pretty good target for bullying, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So yeah, in going like we went to school. It was I was the only kid, like Asian kid in school, right? So obviously they try to pick on me, but I grew up in China, like fighting. We grew up fighting, so know, it was a bad idea for them, right? So yeah, but actually I grew like we all the people that I fought when I was a kid we're friends now, so we kind of like earned the respect that way.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so a lot of that happened actually. We grew up with not much money because my dad, like we work in a restaurant. Like my aunt and uncle own the restaurant that I own right now, but my parents work here when they first came, so they went from business owners to now cooking and doing these long 15 hours a day, 6 days a week type of thing, right? For barely any type of pay, because at the, like you at the time they pretty well take good advantage of people that just coming through like
Hmm.
to Canada or whatever. So but anyway, it taught me a lot of different things though. Like because my parents were never home, like I have to take responsibility with me and my brother. So I have to learn how to do everything myself, right? So, and plus we when I went to school, we like my kids would make fun of me of what I eat because my mom would make all these weird stuff for me to go to school, and like so I just kind of like chuck up my lunch before I go to school, so I wasn't really eating,
That's so
right?
funny because I have a similar experience like that too. So,
Yeah,
like, I would go to school and then my parents would pack me this like canteen, right? And
yeah.
it'd be like fried rice or like chow mein or something
Mm,
inside there. And you
yeah,
open it up. It doesn't. sometimes it smells good, but most of the time it just looks funny, right? And then
Yeah,
everyone be
yeah.
like, "What is that?" And you're just like, "Have you tried it?" And then once they tried it, everyone was like, "I was actually selling my mom's lunch." So I was selling my lunch for like pizza or subs or something like that. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Because of that, actually, it's kind of funny for me. At the time, like Pug, I don't know if you know what
hogs, yeah,
Pug.
yeah,
So yeah, it was really popular back then, right? So
yeah.
I was actually really good at playing games. So I actually used to beat the kids playing pugs, and then I would sell it back to them for their lunch money, and that's how I pretty well eat at school, right? So, yeah,
That's good.
I kind of grew up doing stuff like that, like hustling on the
Yeah.
side because we had no money. My parents didn't really give me money to like do stuff at school.
Mhm.
Like when I got to middle school, I was actually on the varsity basketball team. I was just starting lineup. So it's kind of really weird because I'm like 5'7" and I'm guarding these 6 feet guys. I'm a power forward, so I'm guarding these 6 feet guys, and, and I'm on the starting lineup. Like I don't know what the coach was thinking, but anyway, I used to play, and then I would have no money to pay for like the fee to be on the course, and I didn't have any money to buy the jerseys and stuff like that. So I was actually really lucky. My coach was really good to me, so he actually help pay for it by helping him doing like all these other things. I
Hmm.
help him like set up the gym and do cleaning and stuff like that after practice and stuff like that. And I actually start because my aunt and uncle owned the restaurant. I asked them if I could buy like boxes of fortune cookies. I went to school and actually started selling it, and actually that paid for my hotels for the basketball trips and like for the food and stuff like that. So
Oh,
yeah, so that I get to play like basketball stuff like that in middle school. But once I got to high school though, even the coach like wanted me to continue playing. I couldn't play because my parents actually forced me to go to work. So like at that point, that's when I realized, I don't want to do this ever again. I just want to be able to make money and do the stuff I wanted to do, right? So I started actually hustling. I'm really good with computer stuff, like back in the day. So I was early adopted to computers. My dad actually won the lottery one time. Like he got like Super Seven at the time, 6 out of 7 numbers. So he used
oh,
the winnings to buy me like a computer. So that's how I got really good at playing with computers. And I actually starting these online businesses doing affiliate marketing. so so that's why I always like try to give people affiliate legs is because
yeah,
I
yeah.
get it's because I started doing that stuff like back in like early 2000s, right? So it's
Okay, so let's. Okay, I'm gonna. There's a lot there. So let's try to pick something apart. So, um, your childhood was it was challenging with money and going through kind of what like I think most immigrants go through coming to Canada. So very similar to story to my parents and kind of in that sense. Did I tell you that my dad's actually was in the restaurant industry as well?
oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I kind of what you're saying, I know I can resonate a lot with that. Um, so you get into this computer side, right? So you start learning about computers, affiliate marketing, online businesses. I remember you telling me about this and making websites, right? And creating that traffic and lead gen stuff. And at some point, you get into the stock market, right? Because
Mm.
like I know you as Eddy the trader, but Eddy the stock market expert. So, how did you go from affiliate marketing, online stuff, computers, and then like how did you find the stock market?
Actually, like my uncle was already really successful investing,
Okay.
so he was telling my dad to open an account and start investing, and but my dad doesn't speak English and he doesn't know how to read any of the stuff, so he told me how to do it for him, and that's how I got into it. I think my uncle used to get like these newsletters from fax machines.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. I would be in his office, and I see like these facts coming through. It's all like buy this stock, it does this and this, and like these are your potential profits and stuff. And I said that looks like a scam,
Yeah.
right? So, but anyway, like he was like he's been investing for a while, so he's been buying stuff and he was making money doing that. So he kind of told some, like, tips to my dad, what to buy. But like, we didn't have a lot of money, so but we were very frugal, so we save everything we make and we kind of just invested. So he, at the time, he I think he we started in, I think it was 1999, just before the tech crash. So he was buying some of the stuff that my uncle was buying. Then he asked me like what he should buy, and I was like, well, I don't know. I like computers, like, Microsoft. At the time it was like active ATI is like AMD bought them out. So at the time it's called ATI. It's a graphics card maker. So like I did a little gaming, so I liked the graphics card
All
company
right.
because it was a better quality graphics card. So it was buying ATI, and then it was all these little computer names. And I was like, well, we use this bank. Why don't we buy that bank?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Type of thing, right? So he made a little bit of money, and then actually, I actually remember my uncle telling me like, try to teach me a little bit of moving averages. Like when this cross this, you buy, and when he does this, you sell. It's like small things like that. Like at the time, was like probably early 2000s when he started teaching me this stuff. So
So he was teaching you technicals first rather than fundamentals?
I think that's the only technical he knew.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
So, it was just the moving averages. I think he read a book and then he just kind of start doing it. And yeah, but I think back then too, like technicals work really well because it's more it's less sophisticated as it is now.
Yep.
So like back then, when the moving averages cross, it actually trends in that direction, whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, so he was doing well, and we did kind of got a little bit lucky. Like we made some money with the tech bubble. So and then kind of lost half of that when the tech crash.
Mhm.
So well, because my dad bought Nortel and everybody bought
Oh,
Nortel back in the day. So he kind of lost like all what he ever owned in Nortel. So
yeah.
it's kind of funny.
Yeah, I know some people that lost a big chunk of change on Nortel. So
Yeah.
yeah. All right, cool. So I guess for people listening, right, they might not know about like what technical analysis is. And technical analysis, and you can correct me here, but technical analysis differs from fundamentals quite a bit. And technicals is you're just using chart patterns, different things on the actual chart itself to give you an indication of when to enter, when to exit, things like that. Versus like fundamentals are based on quantitative things of the actual business, like qualitative things. So
Right.
the business fundamentals: are they making money? Are they profitable? Do they have a lot of debt? So um, very different from investing to like trading. So was this buy and hold stuff? Like was this a lot of just buy
Oh
and
yeah,
hold?
yeah. I
Okay,
only know how to buy and hold back then. I
okay.
only started trading technicals after 2008, really, because it was working, right? So at the time it was working, and like we were investing in banks like tech stocks, and then when the tech blew up, we got into oil stocks, and that's actually how we end up buying the restaurant because it's definitely not from our salary. My dad was making only $300 a week, so
Yeah.
but he made enough money in oil stocks because oil pretty well 10x, right? At that time. So he sold like a lot of his stocks and he ended up putting a down payment in buying the restaurant that my uncle had. Because
Now, did your dad? Sorry, did your dad at that time, or yourself, you and your dad, like, did you guys dollar cost average over time, or was it just like big chunks at a time? Like,
yeah, he just puts his entire paycheck into it. So I guess
oh,
that's dollar cost averaging. So he was just like, he just put everything we make, we just kind of put it in there.
okay.
So yeah, so that's what we did. And, but over time, we just kind of saved up a bunch of money and he was actually making a return as well. So he just kind of adds up over the time. So we were working for them for about 10 years before we actually bought the restaurant.
Hmm.
So at that time, like we pretty well put every penny into it because it definitely wasn't into food because we weren't eating. I eat a lot of spam back in the day. Let's just say that. So,
Hey,
yeah,
spam is amazing. So I don't know what you're talking about. Okay.
yeah.
All right. So cool. Okay. All right, so a lot of buy and hold stuff, dollar cost averaging, which I think over the long term can be
Mhm.
really good for a lot of people and their strategy and your temperament. So 2008 comes around, tech crash, right? Sorry, not no, 2008 was the housing bubble crash. So then, how did you get started in trading itself?
Yeah,
Because
so funny story in 2008. I actually got married for the first time in 2008. I was
okay,
22. I went to China. I got married. By the time I came back, I lost half my account. So
oh
yeah, so I was value investing. So obviously I had a lot of banks, right?
yeah,
So I bought mostly US because obviously in Canada there wasn't a lot of things to trade with.
what's value
So
investing? Just so that maybe
so
we can
value
explain.
investing is based on what the corporation's financials.
Yeah,
So if like at the time I read a little bit about Warren Buffett and how he invests and stuff like that. So he was pretty well my first mentor, I should say, from a book
yeah,
that I learned from. So it's a lot about reading the financials to see if the stocks are cheap to buy. So, obviously banks are very into that category of value investing. And then when 2008 happened, like when Lehman Brothers went from $100 down to like 15-20 bucks, I looked at it and said there's no way this bank's going bankrupt. It's 100 years old. There's no way it's going to go bankrupt. How wrong was I?
yeah, yeah. I think a
So it's
lot of
like,
people were wrong too.
yeah. So at the time, I was like, it's trading out like below book value and all this junk, and I was like, well, I think I'm going to put like half my money into this because if this recovers, I'm going to make a ton of money, right? I thought this was my gateway to finally not needed to work it so hard for my money or whatever. So when you know it, he went bankrupt. So I lost all that money, and I also bought like countrywide, which at the time was one of the biggest mortgage brokers out there. And I didn't like at the time seem thinking it was like the all the numbers like proved to be good, and there's no way they're going to let like a huge company like this go bankrupt. Having that thinking was the biggest mistake I ever had because I save up so much money investing. I was making so much money. I lost it like about 60% of my money in 2008, like, well, 2008 2009, around
Mhm.
that 1 year period. And at that time I kind of like feel like giving up whatever. I just like, I don't want to do this anymore. This is stupid, right? And
Stock
then
market is rigged, right?
yeah, it's rigged. It doesn't work. Right. So I actually didn't start, at the time, Google start showing, and you search engine stuff. So I was actually reading some books about technical analysis and how you can do short-term trading by swing trading at the time. So that's how I read some books, and then I did some research on it and saying how these people can make money, and they could go short or long, and they're short-term. All you do is follow these chart patterns. You do this when this happens. You do this when this happens. I start kind of doing it. I also like start following this guy that does a lot of technical analysis,
Who's that?
some random guy on YouTube.
Okay.
Worst mistake ever. I lost the rest of the money.
Damn it.
Let's just say that. So, so there goes like my life savings, right? 2008, 2009, worst year
Yeah,
ever. Yeah. So this guy was like telling everybody about these fundamental stuff, and he's like, he's like, there's no way that the market's going to go up with all these things happening. And when you know it, that's the biggest bull cycle that ever started, right?
yeah, yeah.
2008, and the guy was completely wrong, and he dragged everybody else with it. At the time, he was really popular so, on YouTube.
It's not
So
Dave Ramsey, right? Just kidding.
and it's funny because I used to subscribe to Jim Cramer as well,
Oh,
and
Kramer.
and
Yeah,
I made no money. I lost money, just so you know. I lost
I think
money.
the joke
But
the
I
joke.
think if you held it long enough, you would have made money. But I was following him, and I was like in desperate need of making my money back, right? So I was trying to like look for these descriptions of experts that were in the field and just kind of follow their trades, and maybe I'll make my money back type of thinking, right? Like a typical newbie,
Yeah,
obviously, right? So at the time I had like very little knowledge. I have some knowledge, but not enough to really understand what's happening type of thing. So it was a really bad mistake for me to like put all my money into somebody else's idea without understanding it,
Mm,
right? So like I did really really bad between 2008 and 2010. So like I lost like majority of my money that I'd been saving like my entire life. So I was doing really really well. So I was like up there where it's close to I don't need to work ever again, and then lose it all, right? So it was really devastating, and I actually spent a lot of time learning about technical analysis. I actually read quite a bit of books. Started off with like the dummy books, and then
mhm.
I kind of did a little bit more research and started finding people on YouTube and stuff like that. And over the years, I learned a lot of different things. And then finally, I started training again, and then something else happened. I ended up getting a divorce later on, so that
Yeah.
I took a few years off. I actually ended up doing other stuff with the money I had left. So I bought a bunch of franchises, and I actually went bankrupt. So so it was from bad to worse. So it was it
Holy
was really
crap.
bad. But the only good thing that came out of that those that 5 to 6 year time frame is that I actually learned a lot about technical analysis. So I have a lot of knowledge, but at the time I had no money left. And by that time, this is something I want to tell everybody: don't put your money into trading until you fully understand what you're doing, because that's the mistake I did, and I lost it all. And by the time I realized I know what to do, I had no money left to do it.
Yeah.
Right? So, and at the time I know nothing about options. Just so you know, it's all shares,
Okay.
and it's all trading. So to come back from making that to have no money and start over again to try to get back where I was at, it's technically impossible to do with shares,
Yeah.
right? Because I lost a lot of money at the time. So there's no way you can make it back in that time frame, right?
Yeah.
So in one thing that did come out, I got really really lucky is actually I did stumble upon options, and I did got back into trading after a while. I asked my parents to borrow $100,000,
Yeah.
and they actually gave it to me. So I was like, yes.
Thanks,
Uh,
mom. Thanks, dad.
yeah, so I actually start at the time we was having some rumor talks of legalization. So I got really really lucky. I bought
Like, oh, this is
into
weed, like marijuana, right?
marijuana. Yeah,
Oh,
so
yeah, in Canada, like,
yeah,
yeah,
so
back in the day. Okay.
yeah, so this is how many years ago now? Like maybe 5 or 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the same time I start learning about options too. I didn't actually trade it. I started trading options and actually lost money on it. I did a little bit. I started a small account. I did it about a month or so, and I lost the account. I blew it up, and I was like, "Yeah, what the hell is options? It doesn't work." It was like I was right, but I was losing money still. Like, I didn't know what theta was. I didn't know it decays and all that stuff. So this is like
This damn
a
stock
tip.
market is rigged.
Yeah, it's all rigged. Yeah, so
Okay,
this is
so
like all starting out. The typical newbie into options. That's the exact same thing. So I
so
was thinking like options was like shares, where you buy and then if it goes up, you make money. But I bought, it went up, but I lost money because it didn't go up fast enough,
hmm.
right?
So what's
So
okay, what's the difference? So shares, I mean, for anyone that's listening and just thinking about the kind of they have, just a basic understanding of the stock market. Like I go into my trading account or my investing account, I buy one share of Apple for whatever, $140, whatever it is, right?
mm,
It's like I own one share. And to trade Apple, you would buy X amount of shares, and as much if it moves a dollar, you get a dollar, right?
yeah.
It's pretty straightforward for that.
Mhm.
With options, how would you explain options to someone that never heard of options?
Yeah. So options only give you the right to own the shares.
Yeah.
So if say Apple was trading $100, you buy the option on $100, but you have to pay a premium for the option to buy the stock. So say I bought it at $100, but you have to pay say $20 for the time frame, say 6 months,
Hmm.
and in those 6 months, every single day that you pay that option for, it decays. It loses value unless the stock goes up. And that means if you bought the option $100, but you pay $20 for it, you're paying a 20% premium. And then that means you have to it has to go up $120 in the 6 months to break even, right?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
if even if you went up from 100 to say $115, in those 6 months, it didn't reach 120, it loses value completely.
Yeah.
So you actually lost money, even though it went up $15 per share.
Yeah. So it's basically, yeah, like you said, it's you're buying a contract, a future contract to say, I get the right to purchase this at a set price, but I'm paying a small amount. Like I'm paying what would we call it? It's not insurance, but I'm paying like
Premium.
it's like a yeah, premium, a deposit. It's almost like a
Yeah.
deposit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right, good. Okay. And with the stock market, where when I learned about the stock market, it was always about, okay, well, buy, hold, let for the long run, right? The bull run over time, you're expecting the market to go up. Never did I know that you could actually make money on both sides of the market, whether it goes up or whether it goes down,
That's
right?
right.
So in that sense, with shares or options, can you do both sides?
Oh yes.
Okay. All right. So it's not just limited to
It's
share
just
to
the one thing that you should know is when you're shorting shares, you actually have to pay a borrowing cost. So whatever the cost that they choose to make is what you have to pay. So sometimes when, say, during the big meme stock,
yeah.
uh, this- right? If you're shorting GameStop, you actually pay a very hefty premium, sometimes 300% interest
Oh
on
wow.
the stock. So when you're shorting, if it doesn't drop right away, you actually lose money just by holding. So that's one thing you need to be careful with, because I didn't know that. So I was shorting some marijuana stocks, and I actually end up losing a ton of money at this one trade because this stock named Tilray at the time went up to $300. I was like, "There's no way it's worth $300. It's worth shit."
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Sorry, my language. So it's worth nothing, right? But I shorted at $300, thinking that I was being smart. But the borrowing cost was 300%. It did not go down till later on after I lost a bunch of money and I got margin called on that account and I have to get rid of it just to meet with margin, because even though it went down shortly after, if I held it any longer, I would have lost money every single day
Because you're paying
because
interest essentially.
interest on
Yep.
on what the borrowing cost is
Yep.
for the stock. So this is where options comes in handy, because if you want to short a stock, it's way easier to short it with options by buying the put. You pay a premium for it, but if it actually does drop, your premium actually expands, so you make more money as it continues to go in the money with the stock.
Right.
So it's actually way easier to short a stock by buying a put rather than shorting the actual stock, right? Especially a meme stock where like interest rates just go skyrocket because it's unpredictable which direction it's going to go,
Yeah.
right? So I mean, like, for a typical stock, you can definitely short it because it's under normal circumstances, you can short a stock. Even
Mhm.
though there's borrowing costs, as long as it goes down, you make money, right? But what, like these big meme stocks where interest is so high, it's not worth shorting the actual stock, but it's better to, even buying a put is bad. You pretty well have to like either sell like a bear credit spread, or buying a put debit spread where you buy one and sell one, where the decay happens on both strikes,
Yep.
so that if it does decay, you actually decay on both strikes, so you're not losing that bad. But if
Okay.
it goes in your direction, you still make money, right?
Yeah.
So that's
So okay, a lot there. So if you're listening and you're wondering what's the spread, what's a put, what's a decay, and what's all this stuff Eddie's talking about. This is part of the understanding of if you want to trade or even work with options. There's a lot more to understand than just literally simply buying a share. So we won't go into so much detail here because I think that would be like another hour conversation. If anything, it would be a lesson. So, um, stay tuned for that. But
let me just say this: if you're just starting out, don't touch options.
yeah, yeah, good
Options,
advice.
it's basically for people that's been trading for a long time,
Hmm.
and even professionals do not touch options because it's very complicated product. It's more at the end game versus at the beginning start, because if you yeah, there's, I know there's a lot of courses that teach newbies how to sell options is the worst mistake you ever do if you don't understand
So okay, all right. We're gonna make this a bit spicy. Okay, so um, you go through a lot of tuition. It sounds like, just like a lot of people, you go through tuition by making a lot of mistakes and learning from them, right? And really kind of now figuring out, oh, okay, I shouldn't do that because that happened, right? And then now okay, I won't do that again. So at some point, you start trading. You got the weed thing, you got options now, and let's say I'm going to fast forward to like 2020, right, where we have this. You're trading already. You found options, and this meme period comes around, right? Option, COVID hits. Stocks go crazy cheap, and then everyone's at home and everyone's on Instagram, everyone's on YouTube, and everyone figures, oh, I can make money buying or selling options. Why do you think that was such a popular thing? And like, why do you think all of a sudden people just got into like options
that.
trading?
Like literally in the 20 years I've been trading, that was the biggest bull market ever in 1 year.
Yeah.
That was literally like a decade's worth of action in 1 year. So everything you buy turns to gold because it went straight up, like literally straight up for a full year. Like anything you buy, if you lose money in 2020, you must be really, really bad at trading because you literally pick a random stock and you make money.
Yeah,
So
even buying and holding, you could have bought anything. It would have went up.
yeah, I mean, I was making like this is just conversation. I was making about 300% a month. Like my
I yeah,
account size, 300% a month, 200 to 300% a month, selling options, but I was doing mostly spreads. I was also going directionally, so it was like crazy money. Like I seen, like we have months, I mean weeks where you can sell a strangle, which is selling a put option and a call option at the same time you own a stock, and make 30% for that week just by selling that. And that was Bitcoin.
yeah, yeah,
And a lot of the growth names, right? So we were doing that as well as buying the stock. And like, this is insane money. Like, I had never seen a market where it was so easy to get rich in a year ever. Like, that was the craziest year I ever traded in trading whatsoever. It was like 2008 on fire. That's what it was. It was like if you were short in 2008, you made a ton of money. But in 2020, if you were bullish on anything at all, you would have been rich that 1 year.
yeah, yeah,
And I think that the worst thing is all these beginners that know nothing about stocks all of a sudden selling options and they were printing money and
yeah.
they think this was their life changing moment. And then 2021 happened.
Yeah, well, here's the thing, right? Here's where I want to make it spicy is because yeah, there were a lot of courses that came out, and granted, like that was part of where there was a lot of allure, right? I would say that I would hear these stories, and it's not because of, oh, I wanted to like, well, let's be real, yeah, everyone wants to make a lot of money,
Hmm.
but you hear about these things, and I knew that it was like, okay, what's an option, like what are we doing with options, right? And
Yeah.
some people were selling courses about like this is an easy way to do it. And what I found in terms of me, like, I know what the stock market is, I kind of already have some basic understanding. And when I was looking at it from the outside, it was this, like you were mentioning, right, Eddie, everyone thought it would just keep going up, 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 up.
And up.
And it was like, it's exactly, it was just like the real estate industry too. Everyone thought real estate would just keep going up, 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 right,
Mhm.
without any correction or anything like that. So it's nuts to see that psychology in people, that whether it's newbies or even experienced people, like if it's going on a bull run, you're going to try to ride this bull run as long as possible. But then you're mentioning 2021 comes around, and obviously things start changing, right? And you were advising, hold on a second, the market is turning over, right, from a technical standpoint and just economically, right? We thought like, what's going on? And you're like, I'm going cash, I'm going to go heavy cash here, right? What gave you that, like, what told you to say I'm going cash when everyone was like, no, no, keep buying?
Yeah. So something changed in 2021. So where growth themes were skyrocketing up,
Yeah.
and then the market was skyrocketing up, and then all of a sudden the growth themes start tanking while the market is staying up. So that tells me that the risk is off. There's still room to run, but it was all in the big seven and not the rest of the market. The rest of the market was tanking already in a bear market while S&P 500 was still making highs. And there was a huge divergence there where the risk was off, but everybody was still buying the market to go up by putting their money on the big seven. So the when that happens, it usually means it's the end of a bull cycle because when the end of bull cycle, the first thing that goes is the growth names.
Hmm.
Names that make no money. Obviously, they make no literally they make no money.
Yeah.
The stock just keep going up because all these people were just buying it to go up. Like Art got famous because of that. Because Art everything just went straight up because all they had was heavy high growth names. It
Yeah. What's
went
ARK? What's ARK?
Art ETF like Kathy Wood.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So Kathy Woods is a
She
yeah. Sh-
don't
Whatever
let me
opinion,
talk
yeah,
about Kathy Wood.
whatever opinion you have of Kathy, Google Kathy Woods. But in some worlds, like she's quite renowned in terms of being a female is she a hedge fund manager or basically a
Well,
fund
fund
manager?
manager.
Yeah, fund
Yeah.
manager, right? Very forward thinking, bullish on technology. But her ETF is essentially all of these high growth names, right? No profitability, but potential for big 10x,
Mhm.
50x home runs.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, exactly what Eddie was saying. Like all the ARC names were just skyrocketing. So, uh, do you think was is that a result of the retail traders? So because all of a sudden, like there was a period where from 2020 to 2021, there's a huge flood of retail traders
Yeah.
versus
So
the smart
it
money, right? The big
it
institution money.
it was a variation of a bunch of things. One, everybody was getting free money from the government.
Yeah.
So everybody, where was everybody putting all the money in the stock market? Because that's everything that was generating income, right? So there was a lot of retail money going into the stock market with this free money, and they're basically buying everything that at the time, same time, there's a lot of these YouTubers just keep promoting these stocks that literally makes no money, and they just buy everything they say. And at the time, like literally, you could buy these names where they're trading at like 1,000 times earnings or 1,000 times their sales. Like it was just insane. Where that the type of returns that you can get from these like names that absolutely does not exist. I'll say one of the names that I've been bought and got trapped into was NNDM, right? So 3D dimensions, they like I thought the technology was good, but they have absolutely no revenue, right?
Yeah.
They were trading at multi-billion-dollar valuations with say $10 million of revenue, where it's just absolutely insane. Where a lot of these things were making absolutely no money, but they just skyrocket high, and I knew that because I'm a value investor at the time, so I knew exactly what is doing is just basically a momentum play of whatever. So, and I've seen these cycles many, many times because I traded the uranium big pop, and I traded the solar big pop, and I traded the wee big pop, where a lot of these names get inflated by rumors, by momentum, by a lot of like speculation, I should
Mhm.
say, right?
News, right?
So
Yeah.
yeah, so 2020 was the year of speculation. Everything that you think is the future becomes money, right? So we were in like laser stocks, we were in 3D printing stocks, we were in Bitcoin stocks, we were in like you can name it. We're in it. We even tried to GameStop and AMC, right?
Yeah.
Where some people just made millions off, right? Including one of my students. So
Which by the way, we interviewed on an earlier episode, Ron Esteban. Shout out to Ron. Yeah.
yeah. So it was funny. I remember Ron like messaging me, say, "Look at this." And I'm like looking like, "What the?"
I know. I know.
I was like,
Whoa.
"Wow!" I say, "Sell it right now, and he didn't obviously. But anyways, he learned from that, right? But anyway, he had, like, yeah, this is stuff was happening in 2020 where all these stocks were just gone insane, and it absolutely made zero sense. But because I was a technical now trader, I don't care. The only thing I care about is the momentum. Once the momentum stops, that's the end of the game. You get out, right? So in 2020, when all the growth names start coming down and they were falling hard, right? While the big seven is still rising, I was like, this doesn't feel right. Like I was trading in, I think it was November of 2021 or 2020, where I was like, this doesn't feel right because all these stocks are coming down now. The index is still going up. It makes no sense. Like this is something's changing. I took a 30% drawdown at that point, which was still very, very high.
Mhm.
So I'm feeling something big is coming because all these things are that was working is no longer working because all these setups that we had, all these breakout setups, but now every single time we have a setup, it breaks down. I was like, it's starting to change. Like I traded enough times to see this coming, especially after 2008 and then at the few different cycles of growth themes. And I was like, I recognize this pattern, and this is it. This is like it's going the other direction now. I'm going out. See you later, right?
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going all cash, and then I'll see what happens. So in 2021, like the bigger names, they were really, really expensive at the time. Like some of them, like Tesla, Amazon, they were at thousands of dollars a stock. And I was just like, I don't really want to touch this because it's so expensive to trade with. Right. So I didn't touch that kind of stuff. I just kind of went all cash. At the same time, I was learning about, I was doing like zero DTE, means zero dated expiration dates, option trading. I'm gonna test this scenario, and I did day trading, and I found like it worked quite well because I was making the type of returns I would make on a monthly basis in the day because the price movement. But
That's
again, this
amazing.
was trading stocks.
Yeah, yeah.
It's very, very different from trading options. It
Yeah.
was trading stocks. So I was like, well, combining what I know with technical analysis, combining what I know with options, maybe I should try this out and see what happens. So I started off with a small account, $20,000. On the side note, I did blow up like two small accounts selling options. And I was like, yeah, this is not for me. I can't do this. I was
I
like,
thought we learned
no
that
way.
from the
No,
2008
no,
period.
that's enough for me.
Yeah.
Right. So that's when I started trying like this directional method where I was actually buying it directionally. But at the time, like the VIX, which is the volatility index, it was extremely high. It was very expensive. Um, I was buying like these little money options for like $5-6 per option, which equals to about $500-600 per contract. And I was trading these on a $25,000 account, and I was like, holy crap! Like it's swinging 100 points, and I'm turning this $5 into like, 10, 15, $20 in a day. I was like,
Yeah.
in that day, that's like a year in trading stocks. And I was like, wow. I was like, this is completely awesome. And I started doing that, and I was like turning this $20,000 account into a six-figure account. I was like, this is absolutely insane. It's been a
What time
month.
frame was this? Okay. All right. What? Yeah.
In a
'Cause
month, I was like this is insane returns. I was like, is this for real, or is this like something that's just very specific because the volatility we're in? So I just kept doing it for the year, and it just I haven't gone back since. I was like, this is like absolutely insane, the type of returns I'm getting doing this. And why isn't anybody teaching this or doing this? Like
hmm.
this is crazy. Like
Okay. There's a lot there. I'm gonna pull back a little bit in terms of
yeah.
some of those things that you were mentioning. So, um, because of
I,
the volatility, which means like the market is like going up and down. So you might have heard the news like, oh, S&P goes down like 4% or whatever, and it's like you have no idea what that means, right? It with no context, but what it means, if you look at a stock chart, it looks like a bunch of lines going up and down, right? There's all these movements within, right? So they call it intraday movements, right? Where Eddy's capitalizing on those directions using the technical analysis using how he interprets the charts, right? All these things on the charts,
Which is
and Eddie was capitalizing on that, and that's where a lot of money can be made. But on the swing side, there's a lot of money that can be lost, right? If you don't know what you're doing. Okay, I want to ask, what was the in a figure amount? You don't have to give me the number, but what was the biggest day you had? I know what it is, okay, but I'm asking, what was the biggest day you had ever doing options trading?
Yeah, there was a seven-figure day
Yeah.
there. Yeah, it gave me a heart attack, but yeah, it was there. Like I had to step away for a second, and then I had to go back. Say, is this really happening? Like it was like, it was just insane. Like it was 100-point swing, right? So it was just crazy. Like it was absolutely
10x.
10x. I haven't seen 20x like in a day before in my life till then. Like it was like absolutely insane, the biggest reversal I ever seen. It was like from red to, it was a red to green day in the daily, but 100-point range. And
Yeah. So
options were like dirt cheap. Like
right.
it's
So here's the thing, right? So let's
Eddie's
say I
watching.
bought one contract for $500. That 10x, so that 10x turns into what? 5,000, right? If you now add an extra zero to the amount of contracts you add and another zero or whatever, now you can kind of understand the math. That's how it got so big, right? So for the amount of money he was putting in, like he wasn't buying seven figures worth of shares. He was buying, maybe what,
five.
five
Yeah.
figures, right?
Yeah.
To get you seven figures. So that's kind of how crazy options is. But I want to bring back of like gets really risky, right? And with the newbies in the market, um, there's a lot of Discord channels. Like I found that there were so many Discord channels where people were just like signing up because of the allure of options, right? The return, like you were mentioning, like
Mhm.
you yourself never saw something like this, but you experienced it because you have the experience of understanding how to trade properly. So all
Mhm.
these people coming in and saying, I'm just going to follow someone. Just going to blindly follow someone without learning. Just tell me what to buy, and then I'm going to make the same returns. We know that's a bad thing to do.
Mhm.
And if you were a newbie, what would you do? Like you
Yeah.
have we've gone through all this. What would you do if you were a newbie and you wanted to get into trading?
As a beginner, I would look for somebody that has trading experience. And like I did the same thing. I went from learning from on YouTube in books to actually getting an actual mentor. So I actually looked for people that were trained professionally and got them to mentor me what the market's all about, because there's a lot of things that YouTube video just does not teach you. It does
Yeah.
not teach you how to lose, right? They only teach you how to make the easy money, but they don't tell you what to do when it's going against you, right? So, and that's the most important part about trading. It's not all about winning, is knowing how to lose properly, because you can't win all the time. There's no way you can make 100% wins, like never. If you can like restrict your losses to a minimum but let your winners run, you make money. That's how the market works. So majority of people, like, they lose money in the markets is because they don't know how to lose properly,
Mhm.
right? They would make like 10 trades, they could win 8, but they'll lose their entire account on 2 trades.
Yeah.
That's how bad it can get, because they have no idea what to do when things are going against them. They just like, oh, this should be working. It should, but it doesn't always.
Yeah. The market is
The
irrational, right?
market does
That
not work that way,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it's on those times when you're losing, if you can cut them fast enough, you'll make money over time. But if you don't cut your losses fast enough, you'll lose money just on one or two losers. That's it.
Yeah.
Like there's no way to change that. I was going back to 2008. I was making money for like 8 years and I lost it all in 1 year. Like that's how bad it can get. If you don't know what to do when it's going against you, then that's it. That's the end of the game. They're like, a lot of people, they put their life savings into trading, and then they don't manage the rest, and then they lose it all. So it's very hard to come back from big loss. That's why it's so important to manage your losses when you still can and learn how to do that at the beginning stages of a career. Because if you don't do that, you'll never be successful trading. That's why 95% of people don't make money in trading. They don't understand the rules of the game,
So
right?
risk
So
mitigation is the most important thing, in your opinion, for any new trader to work on.
yes, because you could be really bad trading, but if you're really good at managing risk, you can still make money.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
over time, the market does go up,
Yeah.
but if you let those bad years uh, come get you and you don't take that loss when you're supposed to, you'll never make money in your entire uh, uh, trading career. So it's the that's the things that they don't teach you. They don't teach you how to be a loser. They teach you how to be winners, right? But losing is the most important thing about trading, is because that's what makes you or break you in trading. So
Yeah, and that's I think that's really it really kind of goes back to, almost part of like your life lessons, right? Where it felt like there was a lot of losing earlier on in your story, and that
I think
loot.
that's everybody's story.
Yeah,
I,
yeah, yeah.
I never met a real trader that never lost all their money first.
Agreed.
So
Agreed. Yeah. Yeah. Like that's almost part of like life tuition, right? Like you go through all these failures and these losses that, like, you have to. Eventually you have to, and that time will come, I think. And whether it's a small amount or a big amount, I think we all go through it. Like
mm,
and like you said, managing it is kind of what helps people keep afloat, right? Just like a business, right?
that's
Um
right.
so if the the mindset is the big part too, but as a beginner, like, there's so many different tools to use, right? So do you have like favorite indicators you would use? Like, what three indicators would you use?
Like if you're a completely newbie, I would learn about levels, support and demand levels, and using volume to confirm the levels, and then trade it with the price. Learn how candlestick works and the price action. Learn how to study price action, because when you're technical trading, it's all about price action. It's not like you could not use indicators and still make money by learning how to do price action properly. One thing that you should learn is the market is a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's not voodoo. It's everybody looking at the same thing and doing the exact same thing. That's how market works,
Yeah.
right? So if everybody's looking to buy at say 4,200, then everybody's going to buy 4,200. What happens when everybody's buying 4,200? All the shorts get squeezed, all the buyers push up, and it just goes straight up from there. That's how it works. That's why supports work. And if everybody's looking at resistance points, like everybody's selling that point, this is where I'm going to take profits. So the profit takers takes profits at that area. Sellers take start selling, shorting that area. That's obviously the area that the price will get rejected at.
Hmm.
So if you're really good at reading supply and demand levels, you can make money in the markets.
Okay.
Like you can skip all the indicators. They most indicators are delay reactions.
Yeah.
But if you want to be real time action, learn price action, learn volume. They speak everything, right?
Okay, awesome, awesome.
You
So
know,
I always stress like long-term investing, right? In terms of like some of the things that like a lot of I guess most people learn about is like buy, hold, like for the long run in terms of building wealth and all this stuff, right? Whether it's real estate or stocks, over the long term, the idea is that companies will continue growing, companies will continue reinvesting and making revenue, right? That's the whole idea of
mhm,
capitalism.
mhm.
So as an investor, like you were mentioning, we're taught to hold stuff and never get rid of it. Does that mentality need to shift if an investor, if let's say I'm coming in with an investor mindset, but I want
Mhm.
to learn trading, do I have to switch that kind of mindset?
No, because like I still do invest in my long term accounts like RSPs and stuff like that. So what I like, it's a completely different system. What you want to do is which companies do you think that will still be there and still growing in say 10 years time, 20 years time, or whatever your time frame is, and then you have to find those companies and invest in it. Now the easiest thing to do is to just invest in the top 10 companies in the S&P 500. uh, S&P 500 averages about 10% a year. If you invest only the 10 top 10 stocks, nothing else, you actually can make about 20 to 30% a year
Mm.
based on just the same S&P 500.
Yeah.
And you know, if you apply very simple technical analysis on top of that, you can exponentially increase your returns over the years, right? Because if you can skip every bear market and you're still making the average returns of a normal bull cycle, just think of the returns, right? Because 10% a year for S&P 500, that's including the bear markets. If you take out the bear markets completely and just doing the bull cycles, your probably average return just on the S&P 500 be 20 to 30%. And then if you include the technical analysis on top of that, you can probably make way more than that.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's about combination of investing on top of what you can learn with very basic technical analysis, just increase just to time it properly when to buy, when to sell, and you can like literally double, triple, or quadruple your returns with the same mentality,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I can attest to that. So like I I that's one thing I when I first started, it was learning some basics of chart and out like chart reading, because there's this person I was learning off. They were like, if you can just combine, like you were mentioning, just basic. If you can read a chart, it's like the most deadliest combination of investing, because you're taking where, like you were mentioning, supply levels, demand levels, where smart money is buying or selling,
Mm-hmm.
and you're just adding to your position at, let's say, a good value for a company that's still making money, that has growth, all that stuff. Just
Mm-hmm.
like you said, it's self-fulfilling at some point. It's going to start going up again.
Mm-hmm.
um okay, cool. So with that, like you were saying, timing, right? And I hear this a lot, right? Where people are like, you can't time the market, there's no way you can time the market, no one can time the market. So what do
Mm-hmm.
you say to that, based off of like your
You can
experience and
definitely time the market. You may not get it exactly, but you'll get it around there.
okay.
So the way I do it is about sizing it properly to do it. Like, you know, people tell you about averaging into a stock, which is still true, but when do you average into the stock?
Mm,
It's not about just randomly averaging into the stock. It's about when to average into a stock, right? If it's hitting at demand level, that's the area I want to average into. Um, I heard about this guy that my friend was talking about. He only buys the S&P 500 when he drops 10%, and he would just hold it until it drops 10% again. And his return is not 10% a year, which S&P 500 averages. His return is about 15 to 20% a year, because he does this one simple rule: he only buys when it drops 10%.
over what,
So,
like a day, or sorry, like over a
no,
period of time?
over a period of time from the
Oh, okay.
highs.
Yeah.
So instead of just averaging in the same amount per week, per month, or whatever, he saves all his money in his bank account, and when the S&P 500 drops 10%, he just buys.
Interesting.
Very interesting. I never thought about that, but when he mentioned it, I was like, it kind of makes sense
Yeah.
to do something like that, because you're basically saving yourself 10% from the averaging in on a regular basis versus buying a very strategic time to get into the index. And obviously, S&P 500 is the index you want to buy into over time, because that's the index that makes money in the past 150 years, whatever,
Right.
over 10%, right? So if you just doing a slight adjustment to the strategy, you can significantly increase your return and still do the exact same thing as what you were taught to do, which is
Okay.
just keep buying, right? So if you time it properly, your returns is completely different than randomly buying into the index. So, you know,
Okay, cool. Sorry. So, in terms, I got a few more questions. So, uh, timing the market, long term trading, it seems like a lot of work, right? In terms of learning how to read charts, day trading. From my personal experience, it could be as short as 20 minutes, 10 minutes. It could be as long as all day, right? And obviously, I think a lot of people see it as it's like in and out, right? Oh, I'm going to trade for 5 minutes. I'm going to make my 5 figures, 6 figures,
that's
and
what I do.
disappear. So, what would you tell people in terms of like how much time does this really take if I want to make this, a real thing? I want to put in the time, but how much time does someone need to like trade for during a day? Is it all day, or if is it just
Are
an
you talking
hour?
about specifically day trading?
Yeah, day trading.
Okay, so it depends on your experience level. Obviously, there's a process to it. Day trading is not easy,
Mhm.
although it seems like, but it's not easy.
Yeah.
It requires a lot of experience to get to day trading because you really need to recognize charts and price action really, really fast to react to the price. So, but once you get to that level and you want to make money, literally minutes a day, a trade, but the most of the action happens in the first hour, in the last hour of the day.
Mhm.
So if you can trade the first hour, hour and a half of the day, you can make a lot of money. Most day trader only trade the first half an hour and a half. I do like the power hour because if there's a setup in the power, because options are so cheap, you can make your substantial gains in very short amount of time. So what I normally do is I trade the first hour. If I make a lot of money, I'll continue trading for the second hour. And then when I make that 2 hours, whatever return I have, I'll use about 10, 20% of that return to trade power hour. And if I can make it work in the power hour, I can substantially increase my return for the day, or I lose that 20%,
Mhm.
which I'm still green for the day. So I do have very basic rules that I do for trading. That's one of them. If I make money in the day, in the first 2 hours, I'll apply 10, 20% in power hour for trading. If I lose that amount, I'm done. If
Okay.
not, I can substantially increase my return. And sometimes in that last hour, that 20% makes 2 or 3 times as much as what I made in the morning because of the power hour reversals. So because of the options are so cheap, literally you're paying like $2 or $3
Mhm.
for one strike out of the money, and they could return 5, 10, 20, sometimes X, right? Depending on the volatility. And if you know how to manage that, you can make substantial amount of money in the last hour. But that's only if you can make returns in the first 2 hours.
Yeah.
That's my rule. If I don't make any returns in the first 2 hours, I don't trade power hour. So I'm giving up basically 10 to 20% of my profits at the end of the day if I do decide to trade. So that rule came really handy because I win like maybe 7 out of 10 times. And the times I do win, I'm winning 2x, 3x, 3x. And when I'm losing that, whatever I put in.
Yeah.
So, over time, you make a lot more money than what you lose. So,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
right?
No, it's so amazing because like I think I've experienced what you're talking about. Like base hits lead to like home runs and doubles and triples and stuff like that, and it doesn't really take a lot. It's a few of those, and it really can change the outcome of your day, your week, your month, or whatever. And it's like sometimes it's like you see it, you're just like wow, like
Yeah,
everything you talked about is like oh, it's true, it actually true. So
yeah,
it's just a matter of like applying lessons just like in anything in life, right? You got to learn the basics, learn fundamentals, and apply it over and over again, and then master everything up here, right? Just
yeah, yeah,
mastering everything up here. Um, as we kind of ramp down, it. I know you as like hopefully people are understanding like trading is not an easy thing, but it can be very fruitful if you take the time to apply to it, right?
mhm,
And you can really kind of create a lifestyle that you really want because like you said, I mean, it could just be 1 hour trading and you're done for the day, and
right.
assuming that you're consistent and you can make money. But outside of just trading, I know you're more than just trading, right? Like
Uh,
uh,
Nowadays, it's kind of hard to tell.
yeah, yeah. Right. So like you recently had a baby, many months ago, and becoming a father, like how's that changed everything for you? Has that kind of
Uh,
changed how you look at
yeah,
why you're
so
doing this and all that stuff?
yeah, so I kind of look. Um, before I was trading the full day, so I
Yeah.
was literally trading everything. I was like everything that moves, I traded.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you know how I said I used to make like two, maybe even 300 trades a day.
Yeah.
I scale down to mostly higher probability trading, and I hold them for a little bit longer with bigger size. So return wise is slightly smaller than before, but it's still really really good. And I try to just not trade the afternoons and spend some more time with my family. So,
Hmm.
with a baby, it's really hard to trade the entire time. So, and she naps. So, you kind of, really try to make some time for that. So, what I do is like in the afternoons, I try to make every lunch. And I'm able to spend some time with my family. To my wife, having lunch together was really important because I tend to skip lunch when I'm trading because a lot of times, at lunchtime, I'm like, let's get some DoorDash and, all that.
So,
Uh,
it's funny because we go on this banter back and forth on Discord about food. So a big thing about Eddie really loves sushi,
yeah.
and living in a small city. Now you live in an official small city. It still doesn't have like sushi, right?
No,
So
it doesn't. It has like rolls, but not sushi.
yeah, not sashimi or anything like that. So
Yeah.
the funny thing about like Eddie always jokes about having a sushi boat, right? So if someone makes a home run, it's like you owe me a sushi boat. So on your sushi boat, what do you like?
On my sushi boat,
Yeah.
I preferably like sashimi. So just whatever sashimi that they make. So usually when I order a boat, they just make whatever.
Yeah.
But like after I went to Japan and then have actual sushi and then compared to what we have here, and I was
It's not the
like, yeah,
same.
it's not the same. It's completely different. And when you have like fatty toro and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and you have like it cut precisely the way it should be taste, it's just not the same.
Yeah.
So,
It's
but
true.
you have to work with what you have.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's so true. Like I remember going to Japan and my friend was saying, "Yeah, what you have the salmon there, okay, or the tuna. You have tuna." And you're like, you'll never find a piece like that, even in Toronto or Vancouver. It's never gonna be the same. Um, okay, cool. So, sushi. You obviously know how to cook because of a restaurant. What's your favorite thing to cook?
To
If you,
cook,
yeah,
I really like braising stuff. So I like red wine braised with short ribs or oxtail. It's one of my favorite things to do. Um,
oxtail. I wouldn't have expected you to make oxtail. Yeah,
I love oxtail. It's the perfect content of meat and fat. So like if I like meat, I love meat and fat combined. So like oxtail short ribs is kind of my cut, and brisket is like my thing. So I really love like braised brisket on noodles. It's one of my favorite things to eat. Like on top of sushi is like one of my favorite things to do. So like whenever I go over to Asia, I just have to have like all my childhood favorites. So like like dim sum, beef brisket, noodle soup, and and like like clay pot rice with brisket and stuff
oh,
like
Eddie,
that.
now you're talking dirty, man. Oh,
Yeah, I know. Like majority of people don't know what I'm saying, but it's just if you're Asian, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
yeah, yeah, yeah. If there's one country like you like to travel a lot, right? You used to
Yeah.
travel a lot before like this whole like BS of COVID happened and all that stuff. So,
Mhm.
where's one country you really want to go visit?
Oh, Singapore, absolutely Singapore.
Have you been?
Like, I love street food, so Singapore is like the definition of like perfect street food. That's the only country that has like Michelin star street food.
Yeah,
Like Anthony Bourdain like completely changed my mindset on how food should be. So
yeah,
it's like that. Like I think Singapore is like the place to go, and I was supposed to go there like literally that year where COVID happened. I was supposed to go, and then COVID happened, and I couldn't go.
yeah.
Like I'm still like, and now I have a baby, so it's a lot harder. But like that's the one place I must go and have to have like the food because majority of those people that's there cooking the food. They've been there for like literally decades cooking that, specializing in that one dish. And a lot of them are like in retirement years, I must go there before they
Yeah,
retire. So
generational owners, right? Like it's like
yeah.
the original owners passed down the kids, and now the kids are like trying to build it and modernize it. Yeah, I haven't been to Singapore. My wife has,
Mhm.
Jen has, but I want to try like the Michelin star stalls, like just like you were mentioning, because it just looks
Yeah.
so good. But
Uh,
um,
Yeah, because I'm not much for fine dining. I love my street food because that's where the flavor is.
yeah,
Like I eat food based on flavor, not based on whatever, right? So because I grew up like eating like stuff that you probably can't find like anymore.
yeah.
So to getting those type of flavors back is just like bring back memory lane type thing. So
Mhm.
it's just yeah.
Cool. All right. As part of this conversation we were having earlier, and me, obviously, we getting to know each other. Part of this thing, like you trade, you can trade, and you don't have to trade, and you know how to make money off of this, right? But for a lot of people, they still want to learn. And one of your goals you were mentioning, what was that goal about creating? You want to
100
mention?
millionaires.
Right.
Yeah.
So with creating 100 millionaires, how do you want to do this? Is this through courses? Like, would you want to do this through courses or what?
Yeah. So, like, it doesn't matter if it's through courses or not. It's just that, a lot of people don't have a lot of experience trading. So, and people do have experience, they probably don't think they need like what you teach. So it's very different. Like, I like to start people from like fresh because that way they don't have bad habits.
Yeah,
Right? Because a lot of people that took courses from other places, they have bad habits, like including myself, because I took on some mentors that have really bad habits, and until I like tried to change myself, and it takes a really really long time to change the way you trade. So, but if you start fresh and you are good at obeying rules and following directions and following the process, then obviously my courses, like you took yourself, are the way to go because it speeds up your learning curve substantially. Like what I learned is through trial and error for over 2 decades,
yeah.
right? Because like back then, there's no one that teaches you this stuff, and they're not teaching you their secrets. They're teaching you the basics, right? So like, but now like there's and now it's a completely different story. There's too many traders, and a lot of them make no money, and they don't know how to trade. And I can tell you this by course that you took yourself, that
Mhm.
from people that never actually traded themselves. So, like to me, like trading is something that, like you say, can change your life financially, and anybody can do it. It's just that they need to have that will, that determination, and really put in that effort to do it. Because like over just since COVID, I taught about 300 students, and there's only a handful of them that are successful. The idea is, the point is that a lot of them think that they just should follow what I do, and they do it themselves, and they think they can make the type of money that I do, which is completely wrong because trading is not about that. Trading about psychology, right? Is about what you are good at, what your mindset and personality is like, and then adopt to what you're given, right? It's not about learning exactly the way I do it. I can teach you the exact way I do it, but if it conflicts with your personality, then you can't do what I do,
Mhm.
right? You have to really learn about yourself as a trader. What are your strengths and weaknesses? And then learn off that and what type of strategy would work towards your strength versus your weakness.
So I know you're developing another course for this specific thing. Do you want to share maybe something really short about what it's going to be like, and if this is
Yeah,
something that we can potentially maybe put a link up when it's ready?
yeah. So I'm working on a small account course, specifically trading options. The reason being is options is way more advanced. It's targeted to people that has the knowledge but lack the funds, so they can trade this way. It's a long process to learn this way, but it's very possible to accomplish because that's the way I started it, by starting a small account, testing this account, testing the strategy, and then evolve from it. Right. So for people who can follow process, follow rules, they can learn my process I'm very different from most mentors. Most mentors, they do high volume. I don't do high volume. I like to do low volume because I like to concentrate on the people,
Mhm.
not on I make more money trading, so I don't really
Yeah,
care.
you don't need these courses. Yeah, yeah,
I don't really care about making 10,000 subscribers versus 100, because
yeah,
with 100 subscribers, I can make this 100 people like actually make money, and then
yeah,
they can spread the word themselves. But like a lot of people, they go for like, they sell courses, they go for they have a very basic scenario where they teach that one thing. So I teach like different scenarios. I teach how to do it on a daily basis. I teach you the process, the mindset on top of that, and then how you can progress from doing this to that based on your personality, right? So because that's what makes the difference is your personality and your way of absorbing that information versus somebody just taking a course and just try to follow what you do, because that's not what trading is,
yeah,
right? It can be mechanical, but if you can leverage what you are and combine with that what you know with your personality, it makes a world of difference of your returns, right? That's how you can grow really, really fast in a short amount of time versus somebody that spends 10 years and finally getting after 10 years versus somebody that finally getting after a year or two.
yeah,
It's really that discipline and that knowledge, and how you can apply that knowledge to your discipline to really make it happen. So
yeah. Awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna put a link to your website with the courses you have now, and hopefully you'll have something ready, and maybe we'll put a promo code. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Okay, Eddie. So
yeah,
uh,
it's probably going to be like sometime next year for me to finish that
okay,
course. So
awesome, awesome.
I'm just
In the
gonna.
meantime, you guys link below. Go check out Eddie's website in terms of his courses. Remind me, is it what's the website again? Just remind everyone.
LeeCapitalTrading.com.
Perfect. Okay, I'll put that in the show notes. Eddie, thank you very much. This was just like a lot of our conversations, really, really cool and interesting because the whole idea was to just bring on people that have done things that you wouldn't expect, and you hear a lot about, and you don't know that these people exist, but being able to connect you and share your story and your journey, and hopefully someone hears this and is like, oh, you know what? Like, I've always wanted to try, but I don't want to, risk losing all my money and all this other stuff. There's so much fluff in the market.
Mm.
I really appreciate your time, being able to record with this, and hopefully, like y- you go on your way to create like those 100 millionaire traders, right? Hopefully, me being one of them. So, like, that's part of it. Uh, is there anything that you want to leave if you were to give like one thing to someone and say something to someone? What would that be if we can leave it at that?
Yeah, start early, learn from real traders, and a lot of people, they think that they look at a price tag, but I think time is more valuable than money.
Yeah,
If I learn what I learned now, say 10 years ago versus now, I would have made way more money learning from somebody that knows what they're doing versus trying to save a buck trying to learn it myself, right? Because I did that for about 10, 15 years learning myself until I learned from a real mentor, and then they tell me what all their secrets are and how trading actually works,
yeah,
and in the mindset behind it, that you really take your trading to the next level. So like having the proper education and having the proper mentor can speed up your learning curve. And this is not just because I sell courses. Is This is the way I trade as well, and the way I learn myself. Because the first few years is it's definitely rough, and I probably lost more money learning it myself than me if I pay somebody that actually know what they're doing and learn from them. Would have saved myself a lot of money and actually speed up my earning curve way faster that way, right?
yeah,
Because try to learn yourself. It's great. I mean, like, YouTube is a really good resource to do, but you don't know what's the good stuff and what's the bad stuff, and you have to
yeah,
figure that out yourself and learn from mistakes, right? So if you're trying to learn from those and then you make all the mistakes on real money, it's going to cost you way more than learning from someone that actually know what they're doing and telling you what not to do and what to do and follow the actual process, right?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of students tell me the same thing, and it like a lot of people tell me they wish they met me before they choke on other courses because they lost a lot of money learning from people that actually don't know how to trade, and then they took my course and they completely changed their mindset. So it's something like that. It's not just because I'm telling you, Jason can tell you yourself, because he took my course as well, and plus other people that took courses from other people versus mine as
Yeah.
well, because I'm not actually trying to, mass sell this because I don't advertise because
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
why nobody knows me, and I only do this because I wanted to, because the market is a really unique environment where you can do a lot of like life changing things with it, as long as you know what to do with it, right? And there's a way, there's a process to make money off this place, and you just have to learn it properly. You just have to follow the process to do it, versus try to be, just because you watch a YouTube video you think you'll make $1 million the next day. That just doesn't work that way,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Eddie, thank you so much for spending the time here to just share your story, go through your journey, and really give shed some light on something that I think a lot of people think that is just voodoo magic, and is not achievable. But you've obviously have demonstrated, and I've seen it firsthand, that it is possible. Like, you can do this, and you can do this. You just got to put in the effort, put in the reps, and something magical can happen if you just
Mm.
keep going with it. So, thank you again. We'll chat later, but to everyone listening, if you enjoyed this episode, like, you know I don't ask for any money, but pay the fee, share it, like it, share this with someone that you think is into it, and go check Eddy out, and spread the word of what we're trying to do here, right? The whole point was, like, this living room conversation that I had about trading turned into this journey about, like, now coming on along with Eddy, right? Into something bigger. So, um, share this, like it, have those conversations, and then you never know what's going to happen. But Eddy, thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time. But appreciate it again.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thanks, Eddy. Peace.
See you later.
Your Everyday Rich podcast is presented solely for general informational, educational, and entertainment purposes. Any such information or other material should not be construed as legal, tax, investment, financial, or other advice. It is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a qualified professional.